Hey, so today I wanna show you guys all of the deals that I've scored in the past few weeks. But first, let me explain what's been going on our market. Some of you probably already know this, but the prices here are extremely high right now. The local market is dry, and it's damn near impossible to get a good deal on any computer hardware. But that doesn't mean that we cannot order these parts from the stores that are located outside of the country. I don't think I've mentioned this before, but I use a freight forwarder whenever I want to order something from the United States, which is where I find the majority of the deals. And even though I have to pay a fee for the service, the difference in price is so huge right now that there's basically no reason for me to buy these parts locally. Well, unless we are talking about cases and stuff, which thankfully are quite affordable right now. And speaking of affordable stuff, this is our first deal. Huananzhi B760 M Pro RS along with Ryzen 5 8400F. At first I wasn't planning on getting this, but when I saw the CPU on AliExpress for $98, I decided to order it right away and started looking for a suitable motherboard. Which took a while, but eventually I came across this B650 for $87 on Newegg. And the funny thing is that this motherboard was sold as an open box, and it said that it might be missing some parts, which I was okay with, but I was still worried that the CPU pins might have been bent or something. But thankfully this motherboard arrived in one piece. And when I inspected it, it seemed like it was never even taken out of the anti-static bag. It's basically brand new. Even the accessories are in place. The only thing that's missing is the menu and the DVD disc, which I'm more than fine with. I mean, who uses discs in this day and age? I think it's time for the manufacturers to switch to USB drives. But anyhow, here is our next deal. A 32GB kit from Team Group, clocked at 6000 MHz with pretty decent timings. I got this kit on Amazon for $76 US. Now there were quite a few choices here. I could have paid less or I could have paid more, but Team Group is the brand that I trust, so I decided to go with whatever worked the best for me, which turned out to be the right decision. I already tested the motherboard, the CPU and the RAM by the way. That's why the CPU is in the motherboard. Next we have two LGA 1200 motherboards for 10th gen Intel CPUs. I usually put 10th gen i3s in this, because anything more powerful than that would make the VRMs overheat or just reduce the lifespan of these motherboards. By the way, here is the i3 that we're gonna use here. We got it for $33 on eBay. The motherboards are local deals and we got them brand new for around $65 each. This H610 motherboard is another local deal for $63 plus the i3 12100 that we bought on eBay for $65 along with its stock cooler. All of these parts are brand new by the way, and you probably noticed that not all of them are in their original boxes. The reason for it is that usually when I'm done testing these parts, I like to leave the CPUs in the motherboards and either put them back in generic boxes or leave them on my desk because it makes it easier for me to separate the parts that I'm planning on using from the ones that I wanna keep in storage for the future. Here is the original sealed CPU box by the way, just in case someone thinks I'm making things up, and here it is after I have opened it. We're good? Alright. Anyhow, this H81 motherboard is the last one that I have left for my entry-level builds. I will be installing an i7-4790 CPU in it that I bought on eBay for $25 US. The motherboard was a local deal by the way, we paid $28 for it. Next we have this B450 MHP from BioStar. It's an entry-level AM4 motherboard that I usually pair with Ryzen 5 1600, 2600 and 5500 CPUs. Now it does support literally every AM4 CPU, but the VRMs on this motherboard are not the best, hence the low cost of it. So unless you're planning on using a really powerful or even a mid-range AM4 CPU, this motherboard should be amazing for your build. In this case, we're gonna pair it with a Ryzen 5 5500 and a Wraith CPU cooler that we got on eBay for $70 US. The motherboard was a local deal and we paid $55 for it. All of these parts were brand new. Now let's take a look at some used parts that we bought for a really good price. This CPU is an i7-10700F that I bought from my neighbor for around $105. This was actually an amazing deal and it was way below our market value at the time, but I needed a motherboard for it. Now, sadly, the prices of LGA 1200 motherboards have been pretty high lately, and it was really difficult for me to find a suitable motherboard which was well priced in a good working condition. But eventually, I came across this Z490 on eBay for $78, which was just perfect for our CPU. And to make things better, I also found a 240mm AIO for $35 in an open box condition, which I'm gonna be using to cool this i7-10700F CPU. Next is this brand new Huananzhi B760 motherboard that I bought on Newegg for $56 US. I will be not opening it today because I wanna make a whole separate video about it. I think it's gonna be a really interesting one, so stay tuned for it. Then we have this GTX 1070 from MSI, specifically the Gaming X model that we bought locally for $105. I wanted to clean it and change thermal paste on it, but it seems that the previous owner took an amazing care of it and it came with its original box, which is always a plus. I always like these Gaming X models because of their looks, because red is my favorite color and I spent a good 3 to 4 years with my Gaming X 1050 Ti back in the day when I had an i7-3770 PC. So every time I look at this model, it really brings back the memories. I don't have a suitable build for this GPU right now, but I really hope I come across a good black and red themed parts so that I can give this GPU the honor that it deserves. Now let's take a look at the CPU coolers. I always use the deep-cool ones because they provide the best value. I find a G400 the most suitable for AM4 CPUs like Ryzen 5 5500, 5600 and pretty much any CPU that draws no more than 120 watts. The AG200 on the other hand is usually enough for any up to 110 watt Intel CPU. And last but not least, the Ice Edge Mini, which is pretty much like AG200 but with a slightly lower performance and price. I bought a lot of these coolers as well as many other things, so I'll give you guys the summary of the amount and the price at the end. Power supplies. These are pretty much the leftovers of the deep-cool PSUs that I found in the country. Thankfully, the brand isn't sanctioned in my country, but they still stop the export for whatever reason. So whenever I come across a deep-cool power supply, I just buy it right away because we simply don't have anything better. Not for the same price as these at least. This PF750 model was the last one that I found for around $55 I think. The DE600 ones are also okay, but they are not as high quality as the other ones. I also bought a few DN ones which are slightly better quality, so I'll add them to the list as well and show you guys the total amount at the end. Next we have the RAM and the SSDs. These are 512GB SSDs from Timetech. I bought these for $25 each when they were on sale. I like using these for pretty much any budget or not so budget builds if I wanna save a few bucks or if the motherboard has no M.2 slots at all. And then we have a mixture of budget DDR4 and DDR3 RAM from Timetech and Team Group. I like both brands, so I usually go for the ones that are the cheapest at the time of purchase. Same goes for the mid-range and the premium models. This one, for example, is a mid-range RAM from Team Group that I usually use in my non-white builds, and if I wanna build a white system instead, I just go for the Timetech ones because they are the most reliable and the cheapest RAM in white on the market. I also bought some low-profile DDR3 RAM cause one of my friends needed a RAM upgrade, but the CPU cooler was colliding with a regular sized RAM, So in order to give him a proper upgrade, I had to order a low profile RAM instead, which worked out pretty well by the way. And last but not least, the case fans. These fans are a discovery. I actually like them so much that I bought every single one that the shop had. These fans use a Molex connector, and they usually come with an additional fan with a Molex adapter that also has an LED wire coming out of it that you can connect to the LED button on your case, or the reset switch if your case doesn't have a separate LED button, and you'll be able to control the colors on these fans with a single button on your case. Which is pretty awesome considering that you can use these $4 fans in every single build regardless of the system configuration. And now that we have finally made it to the end, let me give you guys a summary of my whole storage that I'll be going into 2025 with. As you can see, I have bought quite a lot of stuff, but I'm still short on GPUs. So I will be dedicating the rest of the budget to acquiring used GPUs, because I want to build gaming PCs that offer great value and perform well in modern titles. On that note, let's wrap up this video. I definitely have a lot more content to record and edit than I can handle right now, but I will do my best to provide you guys with as many videos as I can and talk about even more updates, because now I also do laptop repairs. That's actually a story on its own, so let's keep that for later, but do write in the comments below if you guys wanna see me make videos about repairing laptops. Thank you again for watching, and as always, I'm gonna see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.